My fellow Nigerians, make una come listen to what this man that you are seeing on this screen said about the Igbos. And this video have been trending, and after I came across this very update, I was really shocked because I cannot believe what this man, the information that this man brought. I don't believe that this thing really happened. Finally, this man was asked one question, and what he said in this update have attracted a lot of reactions. To find out what he said, I would like you to listen to this video and also share it so that other Nigerians can still listen to wetin I dey hear for this very update.
When you look at the vicissitudes of the Igbo man in Nigeria, especially after the war in 1970, has it been a story of a people fulfilled, or is this still a people that are still struggling to actually find their footing in a country that they actually built from the scratch?
Well, I would say definitely it's a work in progress, because it is. I don't think that you need me to tell you that the Igbos have not really recovered psychologically from the impacts of what was the most telling event in our modern history, which is the Nigerian Biafra War. So it's still a long process, and the thing is that the sensitivities around the events that have happened not just during the war, or afterwards. Apart from the shooting war ended, but then what some Igbos term the economic war against them also happened. Although I think it's more by default than design. So yeah, the Igbos are still looking for their place. They're still looking to find their place. They're still looking to find catharsis from what was a difficult period. So that probably encapsulates. I can drill down if you want me to, but that encapsulates the dilemma of the Igbo man in Nigeria. Now, that is not to say that a feeling of marginalization, which often is wrung out, that is not to say that one cannot push back on that and say, well, hang on a second. Yes, you may have been marginalized, but you're not the only. Nigeria basically has marginalized its people pretty much since the military rule, the military era, of 1966, up to 1975, and then thereafter. So it's a very widespread problem. But the Igbos definitely have a legitimate point when they say, well, look, we've had a difficult time. Because, look, we lost what was a trajectory, a momentum, socio-politically, economically, that was truncated by 1967, should I say, by January 15, 1970. So we're playing catch-up. We've been playing catch-up for 54 years. So there is reason. There is definitely reason for one to feel a certain sense of being adrift or lost, as it were.
All right, so and a lot of people believe that maybe without the war, it would have been a different story for Igbo. I'm not sure anyone has maybe tried to look through a crystal ball to see what could have happened if the war never took place. In your wildest dreams and imaginations, have you fathomed what it could have been like if the war never happened?
The war set us back. There is no question that the eastern region, by January, should I say by July 1960, let me say March 1967, was a thriving region. Okay, it was thriving. There had been year-on-year growth, economic growth. It was a beehive of activity driven by the premier, Michael Opara. I worked on a documentary on his life a few years ago with the Center for Memories, which is very expository on the incredible work that was being done. Industrialization on a grand scale, planned industrialization, agricultural projects, very targeted measures at reducing unemployment, which brought the unemployment rate drastically down. It was a region energized, and it was being driven by a think tank, not just of the technocrats within government, but private citizens, leaders of thought, a consultative leaders think tank who would often come and share ideas with the government and invest in projects. So there was definitely an energy about the East at the time, and let's not forget the East was one of the poorest regions. It was one of the poorer regions in the country. There's this talk about the North being poor and the South supporting it. The reality is that after the Second World War, the North was an economic powerhouse with tin, from Jos, with cotton, hides and skin, the groundnut pyramids. It was definitely a thriving region. The East was one of the poorest. It was actually the poorest region out of all the three before the Midwest was created. So, but that was changing with the dynamism of, first of all, Zeke's premiership, which had the thumbprint, the footprint, the thumbprints of Saluyo Juku and Matthias Ogochukwu, strong, really strong, driven business people who gave ideas to the government, and also a team of consultants, people like Pius Okibo, and even even foreign consultants who consulted and gave ideas on the way forward. So there was an energy, and there was a report by Michigan State University, which was first made public by Professor Anya, which showed the Eastern region to be one of the fastest growing economies in the world. Now, that's one study. This was 1964. So you can't really question that. In all sectors, creative, agricultural, industrial, it was definitely a powerhouse.
So let's come to the issue of us carrying on the traditions, the cultures of our people. And when families want to transfer knowledge, they usually do so by word of mouth. And oral traditions are usually very key in how we have transferred information, cultures, and traditions from Igbo families and societies from generation onto generation. So, from what you know, and you've done quite a lot of work, looking at these sort of things, do you think there has been some kind of gap in how that information is flowing? If you look maybe from 1970 when the war ended, it looked like the way the Igbo man communicated changed. So, is the war responsible solely for that change?
No. I would say that, I know it would be an easy and lazy answer to say, yes, blame the war for everything. No. The reality is that people changed. People's emphasis changed. The pace of life changed. The pressures of life changed. So some of the things that we might have regarded as important also changed with that. Let me give you a few indices. As life got more competitive, if you look at the Eastern region of 1966 and look at the various states now, the population has quadrupled, and the resources are probably even less than they were. So it makes things a bit more difficult when things are turgid, even all over Nigeria, because when we compare Nigeria of the past with Nigeria of now, just say, well, look, the population is not the same. So the demands on utility, demands on infrastructure and the like are so much higher. So with these pressures, people have less time, have less disposable time than they did before. Then the emphasis, the personal emphasis changed over time. With traditional societies, what was going back to the village or engagement with history there was more time, there was more room, there was more, and the people who had these stories were still with us. As they died and left, the culture dissipated. Technology, kids spend more time watching TV now than they did when I was younger. When I was younger, television started at 5 p.m. So people had more time to talk to each other, which doesn't exist now. So it's a combination of many factors, And apart from that, again, there has to be the interest. There was a de-emphasis on our history, as for whatever reason. There was a de-emphasis on our history, which I'm happy to say seems to be changing now in the social media age, with all the motivating factors, be it political competition, be it just a need, like a back to Africa movement for a lot of our African diasporas who felt, okay, look, let's go back. Let's rediscover who we are, And there's a lot of impetus coming from there, So there are many, it's a very complex subject. It's not a one-dimensional thing like, oh, the war did this, the war did that. Yeah, the war definitely contributed. Because as I mentioned earlier at the Center for Memories, the loss of memory in documentary memory is definitely a factor, because lots of people lost photographic albums, people lost documents during the war. Many people, some didn't lose, but many people lost a lot of memories. As I said, I have no photograph of myself before 1967. Why I say before 1970? Before 1970, I have no photographs of myself today. So